ChatGPT has revolutionized the way I write articles and stuff like that. So at the same rate, I feel like, yeah, if you're a singer-songwriter who's a bit stuck, then, AI music tool is your best bet.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wit, which is what I think. Today, I'm joined by my friend Eric Tan, who's an expert in gaming and music. He's been at Riot Games as the head of music. He was at Sony Music as a general manager. He founded his own gaming company called Fifth Journey. And beyond that, Game Loft, Electronic Arts. And now he's an executive coach that helps creatives generate leads online. Welcome, Eric.
Pleasure to be here, Derek.
All right, let's jump into it. I'm excited about this call because, for one, I'm a huge gamer. I play games all the time, actually, and I was just on Roblox with my kids. So let's start it off. Normally, I ask all my guests what their definition of artificial intelligence is, and I'm very, very curious about what your answer is.
Okay, so here's my attempt. I would define AI as an advanced computer or code that helps you to provide you with the answers that you need, that is derived based on its database as of today. That's my definition, Derek. Hope I didn't butcher it that much in the spirit of the show.
No. I love it. Everyone's got a different opinion and a different answer. That's what's so cool about it. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. I know, you have a passion for music and a passion for games, and you've been able
Yeah.
to create your own jobs and find jobs where you can do both. And I'm certainly admire that and have followed your journey. So
Yeah, no, thank you, Derek. I guess in a nutshell, yes, I've been very fortunate to be in the entertainment industry. I think ever since I was a kid, I was really into all kinds of music, all kind of games. And I think essentially it boils down to escape, right? We all wanted to consume entertainment to, escape to another world, for that moment in time. And I always had that in me. So even when I had really authoritative parents that wanted me to study business, I've always had like, when we talk about case studies on these business classes, I will always refer to entertainment companies. So that was the start. And I would say the first 2 decades of my career is the first part is mostly on the music side. Got to work with all three major labels, Warner Music, Sony Music, and Universal. And then the latter days is really when I crossed over or when I pivoted into video gaming. And like you mentioned just now, I got to work with the likes of EA, Gameloft, even had my own startup. Fast forward to now, unfortunately, I was hit by the layoffs at Riot beginning of last year. And then after that, I went for executive coaching myself. And I think there was a bit of a calling in me where I can start to see, like, I think a lot of creatives get stereotyped into, don't know how to do business. They're emotional, they're too artsy. And then I'm looking to change that one client at a time, letting creatives know that there are people who can succeed with their online business by generating leads and closing more sales. So I'm busy doing that right now.
awesome. Let's talk a little bit about AI because I know we had a brief discussion, but I'd love to hear like what are the things that you're doing now? Even at Riot, when we last talked, you were creating digital avatars and stuff like that were singing songs and stuff. What are you working with in AI right now that you're leveraging to help your clients?
Yeah, it was quite a transition. So I think, at Riot, we were always thinking of ways. So not necessarily AI, but we do have these virtual bands that we've created as a way to entertain our fans, back then. And there was a use case of how the heck do you get them to interact with the fans on a daily basis? You can't really expect a 3D artist to just like render something on the fly. So there was a use case of, how do we use generative AI to have our virtual bands to like, sing a song or like just like say a line of happy birthday, something like that on a daily basis. It was a very production driven type of use case. I'm not sure what has anything been rolled out, but I would say, progress has been slow on that front. What is interesting is actually the use case that I have right now on my executive coaching business. I was going to say assistant, but I would say it's more of a partner really in terms of what I do. So for context, the reason why I went to executive coaching, one of the driving factors is that my LinkedIn following went from like 300 followers to 8,000 followers over the past year. And that was just because I was just writing articles, just sharing my insights on the industry, being vulnerable about certain, career tips, et cetera, et cetera. And I owe it a lot to ChatGPT, really, or maybe DeepSeek, between, it depends on what you use. My process is usually I'll have like a verbal diarrhea and an honest dump of what I want to talk about that topic. And then I use ChatGPT as an editor, as a proofreader. And I might also put in a little spin in there. Part of my prompt might include things like, I want you to act like a LinkedIn copywriter and your tone and voice is similar to blah, blah, blah. Write me a 300-word article and with a thought-provoking call to action, something like that. So it's been very, very helpful for me. me in that sense. The second use case is I also use it to analyze the minutes, after I get off a meeting or I get off a client session. And it could be, the delta could be anything from I might actually ask it to go, hey, how did I do? And what were some of the main takeaways of this meeting? I might even actually go, hey, analyze the following minutes and literally draft me a consulting proposal, based on the minutes with XYZ criteria. It's been a game changer for me. It's a crucial part of my workflow as an executive coach.
That's interesting that you use for self-reflection. Like, how do you feel about the feedback that you're getting, or how do you ascertain the feedback? Has it been on the money
That's a great
here and there?
question. I think I pretty much answered the question, which is, I treat it as more of a proofreading editor, i.e., as the curator, I still feel responsible to make sure that there isn't anything weird or like, out of brand on the output. So I still do that. But I would say it's very, very close. I would say if I do have to interfere or correct something from, with the end results, I would say it's pretty minor nowadays. So it's very close. I feel like I'm only just doing the 20% correction.
Tell me about, what you think about your clients leveraging AI. Is that part of the process too? Like encouraging them?
It varies. I think, you will always have like the early adopters that are already started using it. And then you get also kind of introverted, more of a shy type of personality. So, one of my clients is from Dubai and she's an introvert. She's very analytical, but then, yeah, when it comes to ChatGPT, she's very new at it. So I literally have to handhold her on how to write prompts and how to optimize it, basically. And then on the other side of the spectrum, I have someone who's probably a little bit more advanced, willing to use it, but maybe just need a little bit of nudging here and there, because even though she acts fast, she's very protective of her voice and brand. And I think that might kind of limit her ability to just, crank out articles and post on a regular basis. So it varies.
Well, I know you also play a pretty mean guitar and sing. We played together back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think about song creation with AI?
I think there's two parts I feel about. I feel scared at the same time because it's so good right now. I think we use was it Suno? You put in like certain prompt. I want you to crank out an R&B song that's reminiscent of late 90s R&B that sounds a little bit like Aaliyah. You get pretty good, quality stuff right now. I would describe it as it's pretty scary in that sense, but it's also optimistic in a sense that it just speeds up that ideation process. And I am on that side of the camp now because I feel like ChatGPT has just kind of revolutionized, the way I write articles and stuff like that. So at the same rate, I feel like, yeah, if you're a singer-songwriter who's a bit stuck, then, AI music tool is your best bet.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. So sometimes using Apple Music, we'll say, "Hey Siri, play us this song by whoever." What do you think if it were like the AI just took it from there? You really like that one song. Let's not say Apata or something. I really like that one song. And then the AI is just like creating songs on the fly, kind of like that. Maybe that's not already created, or maybe that's
I
already
think
created.
I think you touch on something interesting, and I had a similar discussion with a friend that's from CIS, Chinese International School, and my alma mater. And his concern is, yeah, you can get lazy. I can tell if I wanted to, I can go, hey, ChatGPT, based on what I've posted the past 7 days, can you just replicate, a 30-day calendar, like without me interfering and see what it says. So I think people can get very lazy, and I hope it doesn't go that way. I mean, if the quality is really there, okay, but I feel like I'm still telling myself, look, I think you have a duty to make sure that you do your quality control and that you just don't be too hands off, even though the quality is pretty good.
How about gaming? How far away are we from like just manufacturing a game using 90% AI?
I think we're almost there. I think we haven't seen it yet, but I don't know. I'm not a technologist, but I feel like that might be something that will like come up like probably as early as next year or something, right? And I don't know. Again, there's always like it's just a double-edged sword, right? So like on one hand, oh yeah, like if there's a prompt where I go, hey, create me a game that's similar to Asphalt, but then it borrows this XYZ element, change that X element. I think that'd be super awesome. But at the time when the game industry is having like layoffs left, right, and center, and me being a victim, of that situation, yeah, I sense that there'll probably going to be some balance of some sort. Personally, though, I'm curious. I would use it. Generate a match three game that has racing elements, or yeah, I think that would be super wild. I can already see myself using that. Make me a baby that's a crossover between Need for Speed and Candy Crush,
And see what it comes up with.
and
And
see
you
what it comes
you would
up.
just be there all day.
Yeah,
And you
and
hear
and
just like bling, bling, bling.
Yeah, and it's probably going to be Frankenstein of some sort. But again, at the rate that the technology is going right now, I feel like it's not far away.
Well, I'm still on the side of it might mix and match, but the originality won't be at the level of a master. But I'm not sure. They obviously can surpass us in many ways. So,
Yeah, yeah. A long-time colleague actually said to me, like, the tool right now is good to collate, like I said earlier in the show, which is on this existing database, right? I.e., let's say before The Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro came out, there's no way in hell that I think the AI would be able to, like, come up with something like that. Like the thing only existed in Guillermo del Toro's head at the time,
hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can only still kind of create based on past data. I
Mhm.
think that's where humans still have an edge, which is AI today doesn't know the song that I'm going to produce tomorrow. It can try to predict it, right? But probably it won't know. Well, guess what? I'm going to add that cowbell at the 2 minute 56 mark. Did you know I was going to do that tomorrow? So
Yeah.
maybe it's not quite there, but then who knows? I could be completely wrong. Maybe, consumers maybe don't mind that. They don't mind listening to the same thing or similar thing, numerous times.
I don't know. Sometimes I think some people just want more of the same. Where do you see executives providing the most value? How are you coaching them to do that?
So in terms of my coaching business, if I were to kind of look at what's the through line that connects them all, I mean, we're all freelancers at heart. I think we're all can create that marketing plan in our sleep. We could come up with that fitness coaching program in our sleep. But what they're missing is the systems and processes to get them to A, generate awareness by way of LinkedIn post and article. And then B, how do you nurture those DMs in a non-salesy way and build trust and add value? And then C, how do you close sales in a non-salesy way, right? So as an executive coach, I handhold them in these three workflow. And AI to me definitely solves a lot of the pain point of that top funnel brand building, personal brand building with LinkedIn articles, but it's not quite there with the middle funnel and the end funnel, like i.e. that sales call or the DMs. As of now, I think the age that we live in right now, I think you still need that human touch to disarm the prospect. I don't think any layman can just like code AI on the DMs right now. But I was listening to Mark Zuckerberg presentation recently. I think we're getting very close. I think very soon. But for now, I think you still need that human touch to guide your prospects to sell, especially with high ticket. People still need that assurance of there's that someone on the other side of the Zoom that's gonna help them, coach them to go from A to B.
So I know you went to CIS, which is a very prestigious school in Hong Kong. What would you tell kids right now how to prepare entering in the job market, especially during this age of AI?
That's a great question. A useful place to start is that if we continue this kind of creative production type of use case, I'm very optimistic, right? So I think first and foremost, use it and see what works, what doesn't. Be dutiful to know that, you should also be your editor and curator of whatever comes out of it, and then build up your portfolio from there. In terms of the workplace, again, this might sound like super optimistic. I feel like with all these tools right now, you don't really need those establishments anymore. Do you really need a university lecturer to give you that validation on your short film, given all the tools out there? Maybe you don't. I think this is like my entrepreneurial hat kind of talking, but I'm more prone to, yeah, just do it, just Nike it, just like singing songwriting. You have to write a lot of shit songs before that, one or two decent songs comes out. And I think we now have the tools to accelerate that, to make that process less lonely or less cumbersome. So in a convoluted way, keep using it, see what works and what doesn't work. And voila, when you know it, you have a portfolio.
Amazing. Make a bold prediction about gaming, the gaming industry with
Mm.
AI, and then make a bold prediction about music and AI.
Wow. I always think the gaming industry follows the same footsteps of the music industry. So if it does so, which means we're in for a bit of a rough ride. I think there's gonna be lots of disruptions and a lot of the big publishers is gonna be at risk because all of a sudden consumers will have a lot of options to choose from. Again, if we look at what's happened in music, that's also given rise to a lot of like independence and kind of like the middle layer aggregators and distributors that's rising up for all this disruption. I see the same thing happening in gaming. You know how like in the music companies it went from big six to like big four to now big three? Same thing's gonna happen in gaming. I think the EA, Nintendos, and the Activision Blizzards is all gonna consolidate. But through this process, there's gonna be that small indie aggregator, middle tier publisher that will rise up. With music, okay, music that's a harder one because it's already disrupted so many times. If I were to be contrarian, maybe there will be some kind of going back. Maybe it will give rise to, and we already see it with vinyls, right? I think there might be a trend to go going back to what is truly quality. And I don't know how that would look like. But if vinyl is able to make a comeback, then perhaps other old legacy format-ish could come back. I don't know, is that cassette? Is that like genre of music? Or I don't know. I think certain things might have a comeback in the music industry. Again, being optimistic.
I mean, it was a big deal when you made a mixtape for somebody. I mean, that took time.
Well, now, yeah, now playlist is just like click.
Can you imagine giving someone a mixtape? That's a big
Yeah,
deal because first of all, you have to find a boombox.
yeah. But what I still really truly believe in is there's still so much value in taking your kids to backstage and meet Taylor Swift. There's still a je ne sais quoi about that, which cannot be, you cannot go, oh, I'm going to try to AI replicate this experience by not being there with Taylor Swift backstage. Like, I don't know what can replace that. I hope that doesn't die away. There's also something about, meeting Chuck Norris in real life
Yep, it's true. And fighting alongside him.
and fighting alongside him.
Certainly a once in a lifetime thing. I have one more question. You were saying that, what you could tell the Eric 10 years ago, even though you had already kind of done this, done that type of thing. What was that?
Oh gosh. You're trying to beat up my self-esteem here, Derek Ting. If I ever made a mistake, and I'm trying not to be too hard on myself here, I think I spent most of my early part of my career somewhat coasting in the sense that, well, A, I was selling with my personality. I just thought conducting business means conducting a party. Where you just have to invite the right people and shit will just happen. And what I'm saying is that I think I've missed out on a lot of time to actually develop my hard skills. How do you do sales? How do you do a marketing plan? What does it mean to be a finance director? What are the one, two, threes in generating leads? If I could go back in time, I think I will make an effort to learn these hard employable skills. But hey, I'm doing it now. So 40s is the new 20s. No, it's never too late.
Right, right. I mean, you focus on things when you need them. At certain times you maybe didn't need those skills, and now it's just a part of the package that you need to complete.
Which is why I think on an adjacent note, I think, like in the US, a lot of people go to college with debts. I think that's what makes the person like, it's toughened them up. It's like from day one, you got to be entrepreneurial to figure out how to pay back those loans. Okay, look, I don't want to wish anyone to like take on debts or loans, but I'm saying there's something about that makes US college students like entrepreneur. They have to be entrepreneur from day one,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, when you have pressure and stress, I mean, adds fuel to the fire. It makes you get up in the morning and do what
That's
you need
right.
to do or find a way.
That's right. Yeah.
All right, man. Was a great discussion. Thanks so much for this conversation. I appreciate it.
Hope you found that useful. Pleasure to be here.